You feel the heat first, then the silk brushing against your skin. 15 kilograms of it, woven with gold thread that catches the morning light pouring through crystal windows. Each step echoes across marble imported from quarries 1,000 miles away. 5,000 people hold their breath as you pass. Their eyes follow you like you're something more than human, something divine. You can smell the roses they've scattered at your feet, the incense burning in silver braziers, the musk of your own body, which they say smells of power itself. You are 23 years old. You are perfect. You are a god walking among mortals. And you have no idea that in less than 40 years, your own flesh will begin consuming itself from the inside out, turning you into something so grotesque that trained diplomats will vomit at the sight of you. Before we step into that nightmare, I'd love to know, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. The fact that a story this dark, this buried, can reach people across continents still amazes me every single time. This is France in 1661. The man descending that marble staircase is Louis XIV, the Sun King, the most absolute monarch Europe has ever produced. He didn't just rule France, he was France. L'État, c'est moi, he declared. I am the state. And for 72 years, the longest reign in European history, no one dared contradict him. Versailles wasn't just a palace. It was a stage built to convince the world that Louis XIV was appointed by God himself. 10,000 courtiers lived within its walls. Every gesture they made, every word they spoke, was choreographed to elevate one man's image. But hidden in the archives of the French National Library, sealed for over 3 centuries, are medical records that tell a very different story. Documents written by his personal physician, Guy Crescent Fagan. Surgical notes from Charles-François Félix, the barber-turned-surgeon who would perform one of history's most brutal operations. Autopsy reports discovered in 2007 that describe in clinical detail how the most magnificent body in Europe transformed into a decomposing mass of infection, gangrene, and horror. This isn't a story about power. It's about what happens when a human being tries to become a god, and discovers that flesh, no matter how divine the claim, always rots. The young Louis XIV wasn't just handsome. He was supernaturally magnetic. Standing 5'9", tall for his era, with a physique sculpted by hours of ballet, horseback riding, and fencing, he moved through Versailles like something out of mythology. His hair fell in natural black curls that courtiers tried desperately to imitate. His eyes, described by one Venetian ambassador as sapphire fire, could reportedly make hardened generals stumble over their words. British diplomat Nathaniel Hooke wrote that watching Louis dance was like witnessing an angel perform. The king could leap, spin, and glide for 6 hours without breaking a sweat, then compose poetry that made grown men weep. He spoke 5 languages fluently. He could recall the names, family histories, and political ambitions of over 3,000 nobles. His memory bordered on the supernatural, and his appetite for food, for art, for women, was legendary. Court records show he maintained intimate relationships with at least 12 different mistresses simultaneously. He consumed 4 full meals and 3 snacks daily, yet maintained that chiseled frame through sheer physicality. He'd hunt wild boar for 8 hours, then dance until 3 in the morning. Fatigue seemed unable to touch him. But even then, subtle cracks were forming. Documents decoded in 1987 revealed that by age 20, Louis required 2 to 3 enemas every single day just to relieve himself. His chronic constipation, caused by eating 6 to 8 times daily, meant his body was constantly inflamed. His breath was so foul he obsessively chewed mint lozenges. His skin, ravaged by acne, was caked in layers of white powder and rouge, and he refused to bathe, not out of laziness, but conviction. In 17th-century France, water was considered dangerous, a substance that weakened the body and invited disease. Louis washed only his hands and face. His body was scrubbed perhaps twice in his entire life. He believed his natural odor was proof of masculine vitality, a scent of divine favor. The courtiers who fainted when he passed attributed their dizziness to his overwhelming presence, not the reality that the Sun King reeked of unwashed flesh, rotting teeth, and intestinal distress masked by gallons of imported perfume. That one decision, to treat water like poison, would set the stage for unimaginable suffering. January 15, 1686. Louis XIV is 47 years old. He feels a slight discomfort when sitting down. Nothing alarming, just a small irritation near his tailbone. He summons Dr. Fagan, who examines him and declares the issue simple: hemorrhoids. It wasn't hemorrhoids. Within a week, the discomfort becomes a stabbing pain. By January 22nd, a swelling the size of a walnut has formed. 6 days later, it begins to bleed. Constantly. Louis now requires soft cushions during official meetings. By February 5th, palace staff notice a new smell clinging to the king's robes: sharp, putrid, unmistakable. By February 12th, an external abscess has formed beside his rectum, oozing pus and feces around the clock. The infection has created a fistula, a tunnel connecting his anal canal to the outside of his body. Waste leaks continuously. The smell becomes so overpowering that foreign diplomats request early dismissals from court. Some vomit in their chairs. Versailles, the palace built to glorify a living god, now reeks of human decay. Dr. Fagan responds with medieval brutality disguised as medicine. He orders multiple enemas daily: cold water infused with herbs, vinegar, sometimes wine. Over 6 months, Louis endures more than 2,000 enemas. When that fails, they bring in hot irons. Metal rods heated until glowing red are applied directly to the infected tissue. The king is held down by his own courtiers while he screams. Those screams echo 3 stories down through the marble halls. Bloodletting follows, half a liter of blood drained from his body every day to balance the humors. Instead of healing, Louis weakens. Then come the potions. Quack doctors arrive from across France with grotesque remedies: bull semen mixed with wine, crushed pearls dissolved in cow's blood, frog fat infused into brandy, each one more bizarre and foul than the last. And Louis, desperate to maintain his image as divinely chosen, endures them all without complaint. By November 1686, the palace can no longer hide the horror. Something must be done. Enter Charles-François Félix, the king's personal barber, now tasked with performing surgery on the most powerful monarch in Europe. A surgery he has never performed before. If he succeeds, he'll be immortalized. If he fails, he'll be executed. For weeks, Felix practices on 75 prisoners and volunteers, operating on live, conscious men with makeshift tools, refining a single precise motion. He designs a custom silver scalpel, curved specifically to navigate the king's infected anatomy. On November 18th, at 6 in the morning, the surgery begins. There is no anesthesia. 4 loyal nobles hold Louis down. He bites on a thick piece of wood. For 3 hours, Versailles hears the unfiltered, guttural screams of a man being carved open from within. Felix slices through infected flesh, following the fistula canal deep into the king's body. When the scalpel reaches the abscess, a blast of pus and rot explodes from the wound. 2 assistants vomit and flee. Blood soaks the sheets. Louis's teeth crack the wooden gag. When the blade touches his tailbone, he shrieks one word: "Mon Dieu!" His first audible cry of helplessness in years. Hidden surgical notes, only discovered in 2007, describe over 200 milliliters of blue-green pus. The smell, one assistant wrote, resembled a battlefield corpse left rotting in summer sun. Bits of tissue flake off, revealing bone blackened by necrosis. But the nightmare doesn't end. The wound won't heal. The infection has burrowed too deep. One surgery becomes 4. December 6th, second surgery. December 8th, Third surgery. December 10th. The final, most brutal procedure, 6 hours while 6 men hold the king down as Felix carves away dead flesh with blades and forceps. Altogether, they remove enough decayed tissue to fill a wine goblet. Louis XIV endures 15 hours of surgery over 3 weeks, awake, screaming, bleeding, and even after all that, the wound continues to fester. The king now lives with a permanent anal fistula. Pus and feces leak from his body every day for the rest of his life. He wears absorbent pads beneath his robes. His scent, once described as magnetic, now resembles death itself. In desperation, Louis launches what becomes the most expensive perfume campaign in human history, spending the modern equivalent of $2 million per year on Bulgarian rose, Arabian amber, Indian sandalwood imported from every corner of the known world. Versailles transforms into a scent machine. Fresh flowers replaced every 2 hours. Scented smoke pumped into every chamber. Perfumed cloths laid on every chair the king might sit on. Even his food is soaked in aromatic oils. But no amount of perfume can erase the truth. Under the silk and satin, under the divine rituals and ceremonies, Louis XIV is now a rotting monument to human fragility. By the early 1690s, his weight has ballooned from 77 kilograms to over 140. His throne must be rebuilt 3 times just to support him. He can no longer mount a horse without the help of 6 men. Artists are ordered to paint him only from specific flattering angles. But visiting dignitaries aren't fooled. One Russian ambassador sneers that the French king smells worse than my horse and waddles like a pregnant cow. Then comes the dental disaster of 1693. His doctors, convinced all sickness originates in the mouth, decide to pull every single tooth in one brutal session. No anesthesia, just iron tools and cruelty. The extraction shatters Louis's upper jaw and fractures the lower. A hole forms between his mouth and nasal cavity, causing wine and food to shoot out of his nose when he eats. His speech becomes slurred, almost incomprehensible. Courtiers must lean into his foul breath just to understand royal commands. Saliva constantly drips from his toothless mouth, yet somehow the show continues. Versailles responds with its usual tool, rituals designed not to honor the king, but to hide him. More than 200 new court protocols are invented. A color-coded ribbon system is introduced. Red ribbons mean avoid the king, he's in pain. White ribbons mean approach only with scented masks. Black ribbons mean do not enter. His condition is catastrophic. The famous 2-hour morning ritual is slashed to 30 minutes to limit exposure. Thick curtains are arranged to conceal the changing of his soiled linens. Windows open on precise schedules to direct foul air away from visitors. Every hour, 500 fresh flowers are delivered. 50 scent machines run non-stop. Each noble is required to carry a pomander, a decorative orb filled with spices and perfumes, to hold under their nose during royal encounters. Ladies of the court routinely excuse themselves mid-ceremony to vomit in private. Even diplomacy begins to suffer. The English ambassador requests meetings be held outdoors. The Spanish envoy sends junior diplomats in his place. Whispers spread across Europe. Can the Sun King really rule if he can't even control his own bowels? And yet, Louis XIV clings to absolute power. The worse his body fails, the more fiercely he performs the divine role. Every ritual, every meeting, every decree becomes a mask to shield the world from the truth. Their god-king is dying. August 11th, 1715. 4:30 in the morning. Louis XIV screams. The sound tears through Versailles. His left leg feels like it's on fire. Dr. Fagon, now 72 and nearly blind, declares it sciatica. He's wrong. By August 15th, black spots appear on the king's big toe. By August 18th, the skin burns to the touch. By August 22, a new smell invades the palace. Not pus, not feces, but the stench of rotting flesh. Dry gangrene has taken hold. Modern doctors confirm it was advanced necrosis, a deadly mix of poor circulation and untreated infection. But no one dares suggest amputation. Who would dare cut off the leg of a man who claims divine appointment by God? By August 25th, the blackened tissue has spread halfway up his leg. Courtiers faint upon entering his chamber. The smell fills 3 entire floors. On August 28th, during a routine change of socks, the king's toe simply falls off. It drops to the floor. A courtier faints at the sight of exposed white bone jutting from blackened, sloughing skin. By August 30th, gangrene has consumed his shin. Flesh disintegrates in chunks, seeping fluids no medicine can stop. The Sun King has become a living corpse, yet somehow he still rules. Even as his body rots, Louis XIV signs decrees with a trembling hand, issues military orders with a rasping voice while infection creeps toward his throat. A Venetian ambassador writes, "The French king dies before our very eyes." An Austrian representative calls it the most grotesque sight ever witnessed in civilized Europe. Courtiers still enter, still bow, but now they wear scented masks. Linens are changed every 2 hours. A team of 20 servants works in shifts just to manage the fluids. Some beg for reassignment, others simply leave in horror. From the palace gardens, visitors can smell the king. By September 1st, the infection reaches his throat muscles. He can barely speak. Summoning his great-grandson, the boy who will become Louis XV, he whispers one final warning. "Do not imitate me. I have loved war too much." His voice sounds like sandpaper over rust. They are among his last coherent words. At 8:15 in the morning, September 1st, 1715, Louis XIV dies. But the horror doesn't end. Within hours, gangrene returns with vengeance. His abdomen bloats from gases of decomposition. His skin turns black. His throat, already half decayed, begins to ooze. Doctors rush to perform an autopsy just 6 hours after death. Any longer, and the body would be too decomposed to examine. The findings are staggering. Entire left side gangrenous, throat muscles liquefied, intestines swollen to twice normal size, a parasitic worm half a meter long found in the colon. The embalmers can't preserve the corpse. Even working in perfumed masks, several vomit and flee. The decay is too rapid. The coffin must be sealed immediately, reinforced with lead, and buried quickly. During the funeral, attendees hear strange popping and gurgling sounds as the king's body, now a bag of gas and fluid, continues to fall apart. But the illusion must remain. The French court announces a peaceful passing after a brief illness. They burn Dr. Fagan's medical records, hide Felix's surgical notes for 300 years, bury the autopsy in secret archives. All evidence that the divine Sun King died as a putrid heap of human decay is erased from official history. Louis XIV ruled for 72 years. He built the most magnificent palace in the world, demanded absolute obedience, and declared himself appointed by God. Yet in the end, he died more miserably than a starving peasant. His divine body rotted while his mind remained trapped inside, fully aware of the horror consuming him. The man who claimed he was the state, who made nobles fight for the privilege of tying his shoes, who was adored, feared, envied, and kissed by thousands, ended up alone, foul, and slowly falling apart. No perfume could hide it. No ritual could disguise it. No title could stop it. His death was the final grotesque proof that even kings cannot escape the truth of flesh. In the end, divinity is just a costume, and underneath we are all simply bodies waiting to fail. They buried him quickly. The court didn't mourn, it recoiled. Embalmers worked in panic, racing the rot, but the body collapsed faster than they could preserve it. They sealed the coffin in lead to trap the stench of decay. They burned the medical records. They claimed it was dignity. It was shame. They painted new portraits showing a king untouched, ageless, serene. They rewrote the final weeks as peaceful. They spoke of divine grace, noble suffering, a gentle transition into eternity. But the walls of Versailles remembered the screams. The linens remembered the fluids. The courtiers remembered the smell. And in the darkness of sealed archives, the truth waited. For 3 centuries it waited. Hidden in letters, surgical notes, funeral reports. A story too embarrassing, too grotesque, too human. And now you know what they tried to erase. The Sun King did not fade like light at dusk. He went out like rotting wood, collapsing under its own weight. He didn't ascend. He decayed. Power could not shield him from decay. Not even glory.